Hey folks, welcome back to Skyward Sword. We are here on the Sandship. It is the 5th dungeon. And we need to rescue some sailors from the brig, basically. Sailor robots. And in order to do that, we need to get through the engine room. And in order to do that, we need to activate 2 power generators, and that is our current objective. Power generators are located on rooms on either side of this hallway that I am next to. I am in one of the rooms currently, if you couldn't assume that. And so, primarily the puzzle is how do we get to the power generators in the past? And that's not always as easy as it may seem. It may be easier said than done, so to speak. Anyway, visual cue there. Important visual cue. I missed that visual cue the first time I played, and good lord, I was stumped. The only time, actually, I had to look up a solution in this game was for that puzzle, because I missed that visual cue. Anyways, you can see there's a switch through there, but unfortunately that blade is moving too quickly for us to shoot it. So, why don't we make that blade not move anymore? Anyway, I misspoke in the last episode. I said we couldn't get out of that room while we were in the present. That was a bold-faced inaccuracy. You can just do that. And indeed, you do need to do that. And I'm sure that many of you people pointed that out very helpfully to me. And I am thankful for your contribution to the Make That I Not Wrong Fund. And I would encourage you to contribute in the future. Anyway, since that blade is no longer rotating, we can shoot through the gap there and activate that. But unfortunately, the power generator is A, on the other side of the room, and B, only active in the past. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to press the switch and see what happens. That opens up a thing to be shot with a bow. But there's a block in the way, so in the most creative of block pushing / pulling puzzles, we have to pull a block out of the way. Truly revolutionary. Anyway, basically this is more of a test of your marksmanship, I think, because that's a fairly small margin. Like, you have to be almost kind of steady, so I suppose it could be a little bit tricky for the less steady-handed of you folk. But you are playing a game with a lot of motion control, so you might have a little bit of motor skill at this point. I don't know. Anyway, shooting that last switch opened up the other end of the room, the one that is divided. The door to it is now open. And now we can go back to the past, in which the power generator is active, or able to be activated, rather. And since the door is open, because we activated it in the present, it is, of course, open in the past. That is how temporal mechanics work. We can get in here and do our business. There we go. And now these power generators are activated the same way as the generator in the Lanayru Desert proper. Stick our sword into it, and do a little twist. That's the Metroid Prime 3 principle. And that is one of the generators. We still need to activate the other one. And the other one, I would definitely say, is the trickier of the two. Just in case you missed the visual cue like I did. Yeah, as you can see, there are bars in front of that door, so we won't be able to get through. The only way to dispel those bars is to pull a lever in the side of the room that we are attempting to get to. So it's really just an exit rather than an entrance. So the solution: get back up to the deck while still in the past, and find an alternate way into the room, basically. Bokoblin, you respawned, and then you died. Good. And pardon me stumbling around a little bit. My spatial orientation is still not perfect. Link, why don't you just ignore those guys? Yeah, good plan, good plan. But yes, if you remember the visual cue, it panned up to a lifeboat. And this lifeboat can be lowered by shooting that switch over, up, here. I think it's on both sides. Oh right, you also want to be in the present, apparently. I don't remember this puzzle too clearly. I remember the lifeboat part, because that's the part I was stumped on. Yeah, shoot that guy to activate it, and you will lower down, and since you opened up those windows by putting the block on the switch, you can get in here, basically, and that grants you access to this room while in the present, and since it is in the present, the electric barrier is not here, and because we have a little thing. Oh, enemy hideout. Since we have the sunlight here, the view of the sky, we can transport it back to the past, and then power generator is ripe for the activating. Definitely, I think, a pretty darn clever puzzle. I wish that there were an indicator, a better indicator, or like Fee would give you a hint about the lifeboat if you missed the visual cue. Because it is entirely possible that you would see the cue, but then you would save and leave for a few months and come back and you'd be very confused. I'm just bitter because I got confused. It's a good puzzle, I like it. Anyway, why don't we transport back to the present? Do I need to go back to the present? I might be being silly. I think I'm being silly. Yeah, I'm just being silly. Whatever. But oh well, let's go this way. Let's. Oh no, I'm changing my mind. Silly past me. So yes, we have activated both the power generators, and that means we can get through the engine room. Now, how do we get to the engine room? Well, it is accessible at this point. It's been accessible for quite a while, actually. I just haven't bothered to intrude into its domain. Yeah, so that whole... I could have just remained in the past, and it would work out just fine. I was being silly. And dumb. Dumb is probably a better adjective for that. So yes, we want to get into the engine room. And to get into the engine room, go in here in the past. And there's a ladder here. Could be pretty easy to overlook, but since there are two windows and one has gone unused as of yet, you may be tempted to look into it just to see what's going on. But head into the engine room in the past once both the generators are active, and these pistons of sorts will be in motion. If you haven't activated the generators, they will be stuck down there, just resting, and they will be in your way, and you can't get through. And they're just too tall to climb, so you can't do any crafty sequence breaking. And why is there a grapple point here? I have no idea. It doesn't seem like a very safe way to navigate an engine room. Just saying. But anyway, this engine room, for some reason, connects to a treasure hoard. Very nice treasure hoard. There are good things and neutral things here. And evil things too, yes. Evil crystal. Pure crystallized malice. I will never get sick of that. I love it so much. I love you were collecting pure malice and crafting it into, like, slingshots and stuff. So yes, hella rupees and hella other prizes. And I'm not sure if this is the pirate's booty or just what the sailors had on hand in addition to Nehru's flame. But it's nice. It is logical that there would be some sort of storage room for the ship. And I guess if they're robots, they don't really need to store any food. I love that cheerful little jingle when you get a crystallized malice. It's just so happy. Anyway, let's hop on down here. And the section portion of the engine room. I'm not sure if each of the generators corresponds to one section of the engine room or what exactly how it's divided, but you will indeed need to activate both. See, this is crafty. This is actually a little bit of platforming in my 3D Zelda. It's rare, but I like it. Anyway, that opens up passage back. And this little crawl space, which is probably just a normal walkway for the robots, leads to the brig, for some reason. Why is the engine room connected to the brig? I don't know. I'm not a shipologist. I've said this in the past. But letting that down gives the robots in the brig a passage out of here. I think they do that normally. Yes, and the control room is the place guarded by the big boss door. And the key to that is in the captain's room, and the key to the captain's room is with this guy, and now it's with us. So essentially all that, aside from being a good Samaritan and helping out our fellow robot, that was all for a key, basically. And of course, we gotta go all the way back up because, yeah. The rest of you guys leaving? I guess the rest of them are just invisible or something. Anyway, I'm not sure if I was just missing some way to transport it back to the present there or something, but let's backtrack back through here. No, not that way, Link. There we go. Alright, so our next destination is the captain's quarters, way back up on the top of the dock. Deck. And am I gonna make you watch the whole process? Actually, it's a much shorter process than you might think, because you can use the lifeboat to hoist yourself back up. Of course, I'm not doing that. Why are you not doing that, Link? What a dummy. So yeah, get back to the deck in whichever fashion you so desire. You can do whatever you want to do. You can be inefficient if you want, because you have that choice. But yeah, get back to the deck and head up to this second elevation and unlock the door there. Here we go. That was a pretty stylish freeze frame right there. Just saying. Now, of course, the captain's quarters is not necessarily a humble abode to which he would invite all his friends. It is a dangerous location, filled with electricity, and as such we will want to navigate it in the present. Don't you dare shoot me, old barrel man. Oh, he shot me. But I didn't lose focus. I kept my arrow straight and true. Now you may have noticed that throughout this entire dungeon, we didn't use any of those time shift orbs that we used in the pirate stronghold. And you may think that I'm saying that because we're about to use them. We're not. We actually don't use them at all in this dungeon, and it's kind of disappointing because they're a really cool idea. And considering that this is, again, an entire dungeon based around the time shift mechanic, It seems like implementing a new aspect of the time shift mechanic that was just introduced would be a logical continuation, but such is not the case. Anyway, I want to get out of the range of that Beamos. He has a long range, look at that. Get out of there, Link. Now again, people say you can parry that. I don't know. Alright, so now that all those enemies are taken care of, we can use this mechanic again. You remember this from one of the power generators. Again, take a shot. Now beware, there are 2 Beamos in here, and they are dangerous critters. 3 Beamos, 3 Beamos. Now, luckily you can use distance and the terrain to your advantage to help avoid proper danger. But, you know, if you were using the time shift orbs, you could have used that cool tactic that I pointed out in the stronghold of only activating 1 Beamos at a time. But no. Gotta deal with all 3 at once as a combat challenge. You know, if I stand closely enough... No, okay. Yeah, I guess he can shoot you at any distance. Beamos are dangerous guys, alright? Don't underestimate them. Anyway, after all that, we finally have access to the boss key. And that means we finally have access to the key command center, control room, something along those lines. And it's a squid. Why is it a squid? I don't know, but I love it. Oh, you conjecture? You conjecture about that? Because I'm pretty darn sure. I would assume, based on prior knowledge. Anyway, you can see that chest right there. That is the chest I mentioned in the last episode that I missed. That I had access to, but I missed it. I was dumb and I was confused. But now is the time for me to go after it. And it is a good thing to go after, as you will see when we go after it. But in order to get to the chest, we need to scale the mast once again, and that means going on all the zip lines and killing all the dudes and doing all sorts of stylish things. But I will not subject you to that again. So, we are up top, and we want to go over there. In retrospect, this was pretty simple, and I'm not sure how I missed it. I think I was even looking over here, and I was like, I'm confused, what am I supposed to do? But yeah. Zip line on over here. And then drop down way over to the side here. Also claw shots. I had to use the claw shots sometime in the dungeon, even if it's only once. And then, for our trouble, which was not much trouble at all, we get a heart piece. Again, only once in a while do they actually put a piece of heart inside a dungeon, and I don't really like it when they do that. I mentioned it in the first dungeon. I don't like it when they do that. I feel like heart pieces should be in the overworld itself. Whatever, grammar. I feel like dungeons should be dungeons, and overworlds should be overworlds, unless you go all-out Metroidvania, and that is clearly not what they're doing. Anyway, we now have the boss key, we have all the items, we can tread into the depths of the ship and take on the boss eventually, hopefully. I mean, go into the control room and get Nehru's flame and not have any sort of epic confrontation whatsoever. I have no idea why you would assume there's a boss at the end of the dungeon. That would be absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, again, as I mentioned when we first passed by, you'll want to go in the past because there is a grate, or whatever the thing is, over the door in the present, which means you can only access it in the past. And, yeah, walk down hallways. Always a fun venture. Saving is a good thing. It's not a particularly difficult thing. Not saying there's a boss. It's not particularly difficult, but still a good idea. Always a good idea. Save whenever possible, unless you're recording. Anyway, this can be a somewhat tricky rotation puzzle. But overall, it ends up looking up kind of like a skull, I would say. Interestingly enough. Hey, what the... Some dramatic lighting and tentacles and... What? I feel like something happened while I wasn't looking in that black screen. Yeah, the ship is suddenly being attacked, guys. And it's also suddenly nighttime. I figured that there was some sort of monster attacking us, actually. I figured that, Fee, actually. I'm... Oh, okay. So yeah, we need to get the hell off this ship. And in order to do that, we need to cut off these tentacles via our Skyward Strike. Now, this has the potential to be a really awesome set piece. You got a capsizing ship, you got tentacles, you got flooding, you've got the geometry swaying left and right so it doesn't feel all static. But really, it's all ruined because everything that new that actually happens freezes, pauses the game for it to happen. So like it'll pause the game, sway, or pause the game, cause flooding, and it just takes away all the tension of it. It's still really cool, but there's no tension, there's no danger, because you know exactly how it's going to work out. You know you're going to be fine. It's not actually chasing you. I don't understand why they didn't have it actually chase you. Like, make it actually a time-based thing. Have it actually like a Metroid escape sequence. But no, it's just a very simple thing meant to introduce you to taking care of the tentacles. And actually, if you go into the water and swim around, they actually block off previous parts of the ship. Can't swim around the ship underwater. It sucks. But anyway, all destroyed, and in through here we have a boss. Oh my god, it's so cute. Yeah, the giant monster attacking us is composed of marshmallows, apparently. See, I find Tantalus a really big departure from the overall aesthetic of the game. Like the coloration and lighting, fine, spot on, tentacles work. But the actual monster Tantalus really looks out of place. It's incredibly cartoony and goofy. Feels like something they might have used in Wind Waker. And as bosses go, it's pretty simplistic. It has one giant eye, and you just got a bow. Guess what you have to do. If you guessed anything that isn't shoot your arrows into its eye, I don't know what to tell you. Basic format of the boss fight, pretty simple. Use your Skyward Strike to separate various aspects of the tentacles from the main body, and once you've done enough of that, and not gotten caught, like that didn't even do damage, what the hell? Once you've cut off enough tentacles, then it will get angry at you, and the main body will pop out, and then you can actually deal damage. Now, as you can see, the dock is swaying, and I really like that. It's a cool effect. I wish it had a gameplay aspect to it. It seems like they could have done a lot more with making the ship itself obstruct you. As it stands, it's a very simple, straightforward boss fight. Now, keep in mind, the set piece is really cool. You're on a capsizing ship fighting a giant tentacle monster. It's the most Japan I've ever seen. And, like, tentacles bursting out of the ground, gonna come wreck up your shit. And really, really cool. But, like, there's very little sense of danger, because it's also a very easy boss fight. And if you've mastered the bow, I suppose that might make things a little less stressful. If you're still fumbling with it, that might add to the tension. But, yeah. Anyway, the music is still going, so you can tell that's not the end of the fight. But that is the end of the first phase. Oh, barrels. Of course, barrels do me damage, but not the monster itself. Anywho, the second phase of the fight, Tantalus stops playing around and actually does things the old-fashioned way, directly. And essentially leaves itself wide open to attack, for one thing. But will start basically, as you will see in a few seconds, attacking you directly with its hair. And you can see that like one or two of its strands there is like blackened and cut. It's basically Medusa, basically. Yeah, as you cut the hair, that hair will become inactive and incapable of attacking you. And once it's all cleared out, or for the most part, or if you've derped around long enough, it will yell at you, and that will give you your opportunity to attack. And that's that. Straightforward, pretty easy, pretty cool, not cool enough. And as per usual, we get our heart container. Highly recommended. And that takes care of the Sandship. So let's see Nehru's Flame, and I will see you guys next time.
말이 왜 이리 센스를 알았어?